Hi, this is Nate, and you're watching Photolearningism. Thanks for joining in tonight. I have a very exciting show planned where I was hoping to go through my 5 favorite plugins for Paint.net. I talk a lot about Paint.net on this show. It's one of my go-to tools. It's free, it's open source, and it's really helped me accomplish a lot of my photography learning and goals and kind of get up on my feet for working on my own photos. So without any further delay, let's get to it. Okay, so I have a canvas open over here, and let's look at some of my favorite plugins, the top 5. So number 5, the paneling plugin. There's a lot of talk out there about how Paint.net cannot move multiple layers together, and that's actually still true. Even with the plugin I'm about to show you, that is still true, but this is a pretty clever workaround given that limitation. So let me fire that up. So let's say I have this layer and I have a shadow, and that's pretty common practice for working on something. It's a pretty typical example of something you might run into where you have two things that are tied, where the spacing is very important and you really don't want to mess that up, especially if you have to move it. So the solution here in .NET is to do this, is to use that paneling plugin I talked about. And by the way, these plugins I'm mentioning here, I'm going to be putting those in the chat window and in the video description in case I fly through them too quickly or not able to catch them as I go. So don't worry about that. So once it's installed, Effects, under Distort and Paneling, make that a little bigger for you. This tool gives us the ability to step through things and relocate them. And I guess it would be helpful if I was actually on the right layer as I was doing it, right? Let's try that again. There we go, paneling. Okay. Now this looks a little psychedelic, and that's okay. There's a stop to border option, otherwise it can repeat, however that suits you, whatever makes sense. Whatever the case, there's an option. You have a vertical alignment here and the horizontal. So really you're using this, and it's a replacement for putting it where on the canvas you want it to go, and you just use the controls, whether that's with the slider or the numerical, or you can punch it in, whatever works for you in the space. So let's just say I wanted that there. I'm happy with it, looks good against what I want to do, and I click OK. And you're probably wondering, hey Nate, the other layer is still where it was. What happened? That's where the magic comes in. So in Paint.net, if you want to repeat an effect, it's Control F. So I can select my shadow now, the shadow layer over here. I have the two, the paneling and the shadow. I've selected that. I'm going to press Control F. And of course, as I'm doing this, it doesn't do it. The other option is to come here and just repeat it. And gee whiz, wow. Of course, that would be the case as I'm demoing it. Things that work amazingly don't work anymore as you demo them. Wow. Well, let's try another pass through at that. So, Distort. Wonder if the magnify tool I'm using is having an issue. Let's try that again. We have layer 1, layer 2, yeah, something funny is happening with that that other control. I'm not sure what that is. That's the first time I've seen it though, I promise you. We'll have a live troubleshooting session right now. Let's see what's going on. Paneling. So I definitely saw it move there a minute ago. Yep. Let's try a fresh window just to kind of get us away from that. Why not? Why not? copy this. And maybe that'll give us some of the insight that we're looking for here. Not sure why it's so small, but okay. So, coming back to this same idea, let's give this another try. And if it works, great. If not, well, I suppose that there are conditional uses of this being developed free, but let's see. Alright, so back to the controls. Okay, same idea. We're going to make a move. And then I want to take that same move and repeat it here. There we go. I hope you saw it that time. For whatever reason, that kind of died in delivery on the other one, so doesn't usually happen. For whatever reason, it happened in that case during the live presentation, so hope you were entertained by my moment of scurrying and thinking on my feet, but you saw it work there. So, on to the next one. So that was number 5. Number 4 is is perspective. Because another limitation that I hear about for Paint.net is it doesn't have that kind of compositing ability where you can put things and manipulate them to have some kind of 3D space look. So perspective is an attempt to solve some of that. It's not a perfect fit, but if you want to use Paint.net, if you want to do this kind of in a DIY free open source way, this is how you get it done. So, plugin is Perspective. Under Effects, Distort, and Perspective once you have the plugin installed. Now I'll be honest with you, this one takes a little bit of playing around, trial and error to get right. Same controls that should be familiar to you. And again, I'm on the wrong layer again. I'm just doing great there. Here we go. There we go. You can actually see it though being manipulated in kind of pseudo 3D space. And you can also see the perspective, hence the name, shifting along with it. So if you were looking to match a scenario that had very specific perspective, an angle, you could do that. If it had some curvature to it, you would just need to employ the rotation outside of that first, and then start messing around with perspective further. And you can see how that got even more manipulated by that. There we go. So to match, some other angle, you could do that. So again, certainly not as powerful as other paid tools, but it's a somewhat reasonable substitute in a pinch, and it keeps the functionality available in this program, which is nice. So again, called Perspective. Moving on. We have another one here, which is another one of my favorites, number 3, and that is Vibrance. I use that a lot because it is kind of a shortcut tool for hue and saturation. It simplifies the process and it puts it all pretty much down into one dial. And you could pose the argument, hey, Nate, gosh, that's really oversimplifying the hue and saturation controls. You really want more control of that. Well, there is a hue and saturation control built into Paint.net. You're welcome to use that. This tool does actually simplify a lot of that process, though. Its original name when it was released was called Soft Saturation. So it accomplishes a lot of the same things you will likely be doing anyway with the saturation, the hue and saturation tool. It just makes it one dial and it makes it a lot cleaner. So to give an example, you can see how I chose this image, which has some color in the background, but it's not very pronounced. This will run one dial all the way up, and it will make compensations all within that same dial. You can see how the color is getting warmer as I go. If I drop it back, it gets very dull. But it does a very nice job of combining all those adjustments into one dial. In fact, it does such a good job that I rely more on this than I do on the hue and saturation control. So, Vibrance. Number 2 is the Vignette control. It does come preloaded with one. So the one I'm actually going to point you to is the Vignette EH, which was an enhancement against that. It does several things the other one does not. That can be found under the photo effect, and once it's loaded, Vignette EH. Now I'll bring this in a little bit so it's a little clearer. We can see the effects running as it goes. And I'll do a zoom in here on the dial so you can get a better look at the controls here. Radius, as I just showed you, that's pretty well understood, I would think, how wide or cropped in the blackness will be, the vignette effect. Density, that's just how transparent it is, whether it's really thick or not even there. Roll-off is similar to that effect. You can kind of see how it gets pronounced more or less, kind of like the lens control. It's another option to play with if you wanted it to be more subtle or a little tighter. The shape is pretty cool. Let me make this darker, in that you can actually get away from the idea of it has to be a circle. This will actually compensate, and then you can draw it out to a square if you want, or find somewhere in the middle where it's more of like a rounded or ovular object. So that can be really helpful if what you're trying to work on here is not a circle or a square. It makes it a lot easier to construct the vignette blur effect on top of it. It is way faster than trying to draw out objects or shapes and then do a Gaussian blur on top of that, because the processing takes a lot of power to generate those transitional blur effects. So this speeds up the process a lot, gives you a lot of control, and I found it to be a really nice enhancement to my photo editing, because it adds a lot of nice contrast when I get to employ it. So Vignette EH. All right, last one, and this I would consider actually one of the best enhancements I've found to Paint.net as a plugin. Number 1 is the Smudge Tool, another highly sought after tool that did not get loaded in the out-of-the-box release of Paint.net, but somebody was kind enough to develop for the tool. I will bring that up. It got built as kind of like a secondary interface on top of it, which actually makes some sense. I kind of wish sometimes it would bring in the background or support multiple layers, but for what it is, it's a really nice addition to this free tool. So based on that, I think it's worth exploring. So under tools, once it gets loaded, smudge effect, and actually I'm going to switch layers here again so I can properly demo that. There we go. I will use this effect mostly in the case of trying to generate or enhance like a lens flare effect, believe it or not. This is like a really oversimplification of it, and I'm just using 2 colors so you can get a gist of it. But you have all your controls along the top up here, which give you the size of the brush, the kind of brush, pressure, a little jitter if you're into that kind of effect. And it's kind of hard to see, but on the far right bottom, that's where you actually apply things. So I'm going to dial up the pressure a little bit, make my brush a little bigger, and just start drawing this out a little bit. I put 2 colors on there so you can kind of better get the effect of what's happening here, where you're literally just dragging out color through the other one. And that works really in all directions here. And that changes with the intensity of the pressure you put on that. There is undoing. You can roll back changes that you do here, so if you make a mistake, just like in the other interface, you can put that back. You know, if you really didn't like what you did, and yeah, I believe it supports multiple rollback steps, yep, all the way back to the beginning. I will warn you that that gets a little bit memory intensive. the more complex the drag, the more complex the image, and the larger the size of the image, it may pause for a minute trying to recollect all that data and put it back in this tool, but it does work. It does accomplish the mission of that. There we go. So, those are the top 5. Again, the quick and dirty. Let me just take a moment here and actually put those into the chat like I promised. So if you happen to be interested, you can find those. I'm going to populate those in right now. And these are all things that you can find out there on the Paint.net forums. I'm including the direct links actually to the forums where these are posted and shared. There we go. And again, in the case of YouTube, it'll be in the video description down below. In the case of Twitch or Mixer, as it were, it'll be in the chat and can be found there. These are the top 5 plugins that I have found to be the most useful. If you have other plugins that you have used that you found to be a great enhancement to your editing process, let me know in the comments. Come find me on social media. Come find me on natesiraulo.com and connect with me on Facebook or Twitter. Shoot me a comment. Connect with me on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, and let me know what you're using. Let me know what works for you, because I'm always looking for enhancements to my workflow too. I don't pretend to be the absolute voice of perfection for Paint.net, but I am a big proponent of it, just being a user and doing all of my photo work in it. So I would love to hear your experience and hear what is really doing it for you. So that is what I hope to accomplish here. I really do hope that you were able to learn something valuable from that helps you in your day-to-day process and helps you with your photo touch-up and editing. Go out there and take pictures and make something awesome. Let me know how it's going. If you checked in the last video, I was working on designing a gear rack, which actually is still in process, and there is a video with that coming. It won't be a live broadcast, just because that's a little bit too much to coordinate during a live broadcast. But I do have the intention of getting that done, and building that's actually going to be the wall right over there. And I'll be getting some video and showing how that fits together. But there's materials and there's finer plan drawing and measurements I have to take and all that stuff that you would traditionally do for building something that you intend to actually work and stick around for a while. So keep an eye out for that on YouTube. That's likely where that's going to go. So definitely come follow me there and stay aware of what I'm doing and the projects that I'm up to. Follow me on Instagram if you want to stay up on the pictures that I'm taking. I put up new pictures every day, and I try to keep a nice variety of things. Feel free to jump in and comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you'd like to see, because I'm open to trying out new things and really exploring my capabilities and trying things I haven't tried yet. I like to look at what other people are doing and somewhat emulate that. I'm not a plagiarist, but I like to take concepts and just kind of see, hey, you know, what would that look like with this? Or, you know, let me take that idea and try this. So it's just kind of the experience of testing out the art form of photography and really, really going places with that. So thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate you joining in and hopefully having a good time with me. I have fun doing this. So until the next time, until the next Saturday, have a fantastic night. Take care.